Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Vanover. Welcome to AP Psychology Unit 1, 2 Study Exam. As people start to join our live stream, a little bit of a musical interlude for you as we hang out and wait.
Talking away, I don't know what to say, I say it anyway. Today is another day to finally shine away. I'm coming away like a day. Suddenly, let's to say, I'm all excited. Somebody stolen away. Started learning that life is okay. Say I'm free. It's no better to be safe than sorry. Take on me. Take on me. Things that you say, yeah, things in life, just to play my worries away. You are the things I've got to remember. Shine away, I'll be coming for you anyway. Take on me, take on me, I'll be take on me, take on me, take on
Make a splash on the SEAL Tour, San Diego's only sea and land adventure tour. The SEAL Tour offers 90 minutes of fun on sea and land with live narration. Ask about our Hometown Pass, where locals ride free with every paid adult admission. Make your reservations today at SEALTours.com. University, a veteran-founded, military-friendly, San Diego-based non.
Welcome to the jungle. We got fun games. We got everything you want. We organize. We are the people that you find. Whatever you need.
Welcome to the jungle. All right, I'm Mr. Vanover. We're going to stop the screen sharing in the moment here. We're actually going to get to work, something we should be doing. And so hope you guys are having a great night and that you've enjoyed some 80s music and some Guns N' Roses. I mean, who wouldn't like Guns N' Roses? Look at that hair. So I am Mr. Vanover, and I am your host tonight for our study session for Units 1 and 2, which would be Psychology's Perspectives, the history of psychology, as well as research methods, statistics, ethics, all that kind of good stuff. So with that in mind, what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to show you a couple of things from the website. I've got a live stream version of Kahoot that will play for Units 1 and 2 so that you can get an idea, again, of how the test questions might work and just kind of put your knowledge to test. Some general questions, and then we'll get going. So I'm going to move it a little fast tonight only because I am not going to stay here at school any later than I need to. I plan to try to be done with this sometime around, 8:45 in that little time frame there. So you're welcome to stay with us as long as you want, as little as you want. I will also share the Kahoot links when we're done so that you can do that on your own. And if you want to pop in at any point, you can. Again, with regard to the live chat, just make sure that you are keeping that in mind, that we are keeping this on the clean side of things. And so that way we can make sure that we keeping this in line with what we do at school. So Luca has asked if we get anything for winning the Kahoot. Lexi says pride. Luca says no. Jenny was afraid at Every Breath You Take because that obviously is a stalker song. And interesting that Jenny also brought up Bozo because that's my good friend behind me. He'll make sense a little later. So Alan has asked where his extra credit is. I've told Alan that if he can find the extra credit, he can have it. So keep searching, Alan. Keep searching. All right. So then what I'm going to do is get you. Lily's going to point out the candy from Kahoot. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Yes, yes, yes. Valentine's Day is Wednesday. Maybe you'll all get a treat. And then maybe the winners of the last Kahoot will get some special treat. You found the extra credit in Karusha's grade. Well, God help us all. So, okay. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to get going on the Kahoot. And I'm going to randomize the Kahoot. Just remember that when you join the Kahoot, you need to make sure that you have names that are appropriate and preferably identifiable. Otherwise, I will kick you out if I can't get some idea who you are. And hey, can I give a shout out to Brandon Coletta at Brandon.Coletta. There you go, Brandon. Shout out to you, buddy. Okay, so everyone watching live in the YouTube universe, there you go. So with that being said, let's go and let's get this Kahoot on the road. We'll start with Unit 1. The Unit 1 Kahoots, which is, again, psychology, perspectives, history, all that kind of good stuff. So we're going to get that loaded up here, and then I'll take the screen over to that, and we will get that on the way. So we're going to randomize the order of questions, and I turned off the name generator and all that kind of good stuff, and it should display the game pin throughout. So let's get this going. So let's turn this back on. Let me and I have no idea what's playing on here, but you guys can find that out. Get yourselves logged in. We rock out to some great Kahoot music. Got Mark, we got Brother, we got Bozo the Clown, we got Jenny, we got Eat, Rick, OT, Leica's here, Connor's here, Emma, good for you for giving us your name, Dahlia, Alicia, Lily. I got a Lily, and I got a Lily, and I got a Lily Lynn, I see. Mr. Colleen is here. Well, that's awesome. Great. Welcome, Mr. Colleen. Alan is here. Is here. John. Val. Wonder which Val this might be. There's 38 of you in the chat at the moment. We've got 34 people. We'll hurry up and get ourselves all chosen. Luca has joined. Gayatri, welcome. Mr. Mueller is here. Wow, blast from the past. Rar is here. All right. There are now 39 players, even though there's now 39 viewers. That's awesome. So it looks like we're going to get ourselves started. Here we go. So are you ready? The amount of TV watched is monitored to see the impact of it on grades. The grade would be the independent variable. Is it a correlation? Is it the control, or is it the dependent variable? Ooh, just a few more people got to choose here. Alan's telling us we got to lag. Does anyone else seriously lag? It's like a 10-second delay. Yes, the lag will be there. I'm so sorry. Let's see what we got here. The majority of you said that this was the dependent variable. Good for you. Looking at your chat, love to hear from you what you say makes this the correct answer. Love to see some things that are out there. Why is this the correct answer, the dependent variable? putting your knowledge to the test. See if you are the best. Look at that, what I did there. I made a rhyme. Ignore the message over here.
Thank you, everybody, for a great evening. I hope you've enjoyed the sessions you've attended. This concludes our information night. We hope you choose CCA.
Sorry that you heard that over the loudspeaker. This is info night at the same time. So Erica Adams says, Jenny says you're measuring it. Arthur said, or Alexander Arthur says, your grade relies on the video games. Erica says, impact on grades means that the grades are being monitored to see if it's dependent. Miss Stein says it changes with the presence of video grades. Gayatri says the grade depends on the amount of TV watched. So the grade is the dependent variable and the amount of TV watched is the independent variable. So that being said, let's see where we're at. Brother is at number 1. Jenny, number 2. Eric is at number 3. Lexi 1.0 is at number 4. Tied with Erica at number 5. Uh-oh, looks like we could have a showdown. Look at this. Look at this spread. It's not very large. Okay, with that being said, let's go to the next question. Stats used to tell something about an event are blank, and stats used to reach conclusion are blank. So very nicely done. This is one of those versus topics where this is something that you see quite a bit in AP Psychology, which is where you have two things of similar nature that describe something about the topic overall. So you have to know the difference between them. So descriptive are statistics that are used to tell something about an event, and inferential are the statistics used to reach conclusions about an event. So you can make those decisions based upon the information that you see in the sample, and hopefully they are generalizable so that they can be applied to larger populations. Nicely done. Let's see where we're at. Ooh, Jenny is at number 1. Alan's at number 2. We get Bozo the Clown at number 3. Lexi is in at number 4, and Eric at number 5, and they are tied. But Lexi and Eric only have 10 points between Bozo, and Alan is 1 precarious point away from being knocked down 1 by Bozo. Jenny, though, is only 4 points from Alan. We have a close game, my friends. Let's take a look at the next one. Main advantage of using animals in research rather than humans is it's cheaper, or you have more control over the animals, or there are no ethical issues, or animals are fundamentally similar to humans. Shankar, an answer to your question, we'll run this till about 8:45. Erica says these all seem correct. Maybe they are. Maybe there's more than one, like we did in class last week. Alan says he thinks one of these is wrong. Maybe. Maybe. So the answer is that you have more control over animals, although you could argue that it may be cheaper. It is probably not the best answer. Then no ethical issues. Well, we looked at what the ethical guidelines were about these. So I hope that you understand. Animals are fundamentally similar to humans. Well, we talked about some animals have some similarities to humans, namely lab rats. If you were in fourth period, you got to hear Alan give his astounding tale of working with lab rats with his father over the summer. And more control over animals is the best answer in this particular case. Of course, we know that Lexi objects. Now, in the case of what Lexi objects to, I'm assuming that she thinks that she should have had the right answer. And Erica, you can hear the tale that Alan has to tell at another time. But what you have to remember about animals, the phrase or the statement that animals are fundamentally similar to humans is the idea that you have to be careful with the idea that not all animals are going to be fundamentally similar to humans. So that's where I'm going to answer Lexi's objection. Let's see where we're at here. Jenny is at number 1. Afwe is at number 2. And Gayatri has hit the board at number 3, going strong. Alex is at number 4. Connor's at number 5. We've had a major upset off that board. 5 players have reached their answer streak of 3. Let's go to the next question. With high variability in a data set, standard deviation will be, Jenny wants to ask a question about this. So Jenny, when we're done with the choosing, we can see what your question is, and Alan will probably answer it. You said, many of you, large, which is the correct answer. Good for you. Now, Jenny has a question about this. So, Jenny, why don't you type your question into the chat, and we'll take a stab at it as a big old group of people, and we'll see if we can get that answered. And it might have some of the review that we'd want to accompany this. The record reflects that there's some serious savagery going on regarding Alan's particular actions with the mice. So Jenny says, I remember in class you said that large standard deviation means that the data is more variable. Okay. But is that always true? So, that's a really good question. You're going to throw me on that one. Alan says that's probably true. And Jenny says, because if you converted data from meters to centimeter, then you would have that it gets more spread out. Alan says, if you did that kind of conversion, the standard deviation would be adjusted accordingly. So regarding what Jenny says, wouldn't that be the same data? So it has the same variability. Yes, Jenny, it would be, because as Alan said, if you did adjust, if you had to do some conversion from meters to centimeter or from metric to imperial, you would find that. Then Alfred says, aren't there multiple ways to measure variability? And then Eric says, standard deviation is a measure of variability. Alex says, yeah. And then Jenny says, wait, does that mean reliable? Luca says, standard deviation means average error. So when you're transferring meters to centimeters, it would be proportional. So Jenny says, I know that the standard deviation would change, but does the reliability change? So in terms of reliability of the data, I think is what I think you might be getting at. In that particular sense, Jenny, I would say that the reliability would be similar in the scenario you've given us in that regard, because the more spread out a standard deviation is, it doesn't mean that the data is necessarily unreliable. It means that you probably have some more confounding results that are affecting your data set than maybe you'd want to have. So, and then it says, Jenny wants me to tell you that she meant with the larger standard deviation from converting units, shouldn't reliability stay the same? Well, yes, it would stay the same in that case, Ronak, because we are definitely looking at this from the standpoint of there would be a proportional adjustment in that regard. Gayatri says, I guess the reliability would change because there will most likely be more outliers, making the mean, range, and median to be less representative of the data. I would say that Alfred says he thinks it stays the same. Alan says the same, that they're pretty sure the outliers would still be the same. So, and I would say, I'm going to not only, make the disclaimer again, I'm not a stats whiz by any means, but everything that I'm hearing and seeing here is that essentially, if you made an adjustment from one unit of measure to another, eventually it's going to have to be proportionate, because you're simply just adjusting what your unit of measure might be. If your outlier is 8 centimeters and then you turn that into millimeters, that would still be farther away in its conversion than would be than it was at the same time as it was under the pre-conversion amount. Yeah, Lucas says mathematically there would not be more outliers. Ronak says it's just a small discrepancy from class, in which I think we talked about higher standard deviation means less reliability, which isn't necessarily true. And Ronak, you're right. I think literally when we look at I think what I meant maybe to say in class, which was not maybe higher standard deviation, but maybe a greater spread of standard deviation and that sort of thing. So good questions about that. I can tell you this much, that you're not going to have quite the same complexity about standard deviation, that you shouldn't expect that so much with regard to the AP exam. Questions of standard deviation, or even my exam, questions about standard deviation are actually very, very straightforward. And one thing I'll show you with regard to some resources that are available from my website, especially the practice tests, questions that you see regarding standard deviation on there would be roughly around what you could expect on the actual exam. So let's see where we are on our Kahoot. Jenny is at number 1. Afue is at number 2. We got Gayatri still at number 3. Alex in at number 4. Connor sitting at number 5. Let's see our next question. The subjects nor the person administering the experiment know who is in the control group. What do we call this? Is this an unethical study? Is this referring to an independent variable? Is this a single blind study or a double blind study? So 30 of you have said accurately that this is a double blind study. That is correct. And that's very, very straightforward in regard to who is in what group. So nicely done, my friends. Test questions, are they going to be at this level of difficulty? Shankar, they'll be a little more difficult than this, but this is meant to kind of help you review key terminology and concepts. So they're not meant to be exactly the same. If you want as close as possible to these same types of questions, then you would go to the practice quiz questions that are available on the website. So let's take a look here. Jenny's at number 1, Afue number 2, Gayatri still at number 3, Alex and Connor still rounding out the top 5. Let's take another question on this topic. If we get a cookie, we're going to do it again. If we don't, then we won't. Which psychologist would be talking about this idea? So this was asking you about different schools of psychological thought and perspectives. And this is definitely hitting at the school of thought of B.F. Skinner, which belongs to what, my friend? Behaviorism, Alan says, and that is correct. Ding, 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 ding. Jenny says that as well. Let the record reflect that Jenny has weighed in on the topic and is accurate. So has Ronick. Erica says, yeah. And B.F. Skinner is the father of behaviorism. So remember, this is part of Psych's perspectives. So in this perspective, this would be showing a situation where you have getting a cookie would be a reward, and rewards are meant to encourage behavior. And if you don't get the cookie, you would be less likely to do that. What would William James have said or done in comparison? Well, what do we know, Gayatri? That's a great question. What do we know about William James? Anyone? Anyone? Lucas says introspection. Lexi says, is that structuralism? Alan saying, is that functionalism? Jenny is actually saying functionalism, as is Luca. Ronick says William James was a functionalist. And Mark says the same. Emma says the same. Alex says fun. And Alan also says he aspires to be a functionalism. So, I don't know, Alan, if functional is in your destiny. No fighting, boys. All right, so here we go. Let's see where we're at. Jenny's still at number 1. Afue is at number 2. Connor has moved into the number 3 spot, displacing Gayatri. And Alex is now at number 4. One more question. Which of the following is going to be the weakest correlation? Ooh. 60 seconds left on the clock. 29 answers in. Testing to see if you know something about correlation. Okay, so the correct answer here would be negative 0.03. Alex says, doesn't correlation only go from -1 to +1? Jenny says, yes, as does Erica. So that would tell you right away that the blue and the green would be incorrect answers because you can only go from -1 to +1. Now, how do we know that negative 0.03 is a weaker correlation than 0.042? Why do we know that is a weaker correlation than positive 0.42? Any correlation closer to 0 is going to be weaker. And as Alan said in math talk, because the absolute value of the coefficient is lower. So Connor and Ronik said it's closer to 0. So absolute value, a smaller absolute value, Mark says, is a weaker correlation. So 0 means there's absolutely no correlation. So correct. In this particular case, the further from 0 that you get, the stronger the correlation. And what does the positive or the negative mean? For those out there listening in TV land. Whether it's a positive or a negative relationship, okay? So Jenny says it has to do with direction. Alexander Arthur says it is a negative is inverse. Ronik's saying positive or negative slope. Blah, can't talk about slope. We don't need to get that particularly detailed about this. But the relationship, Jenny says, talks about the direction of the relationship. So positive is the same. Erica says that negative means an inverse correlation. Nicely done. So in terms of statistics, when we're looking at whether or not we have a weak or a strong correlation, what does that tell us about the data that has been collected? I'm thinking I'm hearing some crickets. So the question is, in terms of correlation, whether we've got a stronger or a weaker correlation, what does it mean when we find a stronger or a weaker correlation? What does that tell us about the information that we are trying to find?
So I just figured out a
Whoops, sorry, hold on.
Online. I was about to buy these headphones from Target for $100.
Erica says the data collected doesn't show a strong correlation, but is slightly correlated invertly. Like, so what does that mean in return to when we going back to the question, if we see a strong or a negative correlation, what would that tell us about looking at our results and making judgments? Guided 3 is taking a guess, and so I like that. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing the stronger correlation, the higher the chance that the independent variable becomes a causation to the dependent variable. Roenick says stronger correlation tells us that the data are more closely related, and our predictions of one from the other would be more accurate. Nice. Actually, I like what you've said there, Roenick. So that is very nicely said. Now, Alan, since you and Roenick are fighting, do you agree with what Roenick says? Alan's going to agree. So if you're looking here when I ask the question, so I can turn the crickets off. The crickets are now gone. So Roenick says that I asked the question that said, what does it tell us about correlation, whether it's a stronger or a weaker correlation? Roenick said the stronger correlation will tell us that the data are more closely related and our predictions of one from the other would be more accurate. And so Alan says, you know, that's great. That it happens a couple times a day. So I am so fantastic that I've witnessed it as well. Let's go to another question. Jenny, you are at number 1. Afue, number 2. Connor is at number 3. Alex is now at number 4. Alan is inching his way back on the board. Let's take a look. This gives us a sample of a person's behavior, and it is standardized. "51 seconds left on the clock. 28 answers are in. Erica doesn't appreciate this question. Neither does Alex. Alvin thinks he's got it wrong. He's resting in peace his number 2 spot. So this would be a personality test. So this is a sample of a person's behavior, and it is standardized. Standardized means, in the sense of psychology, that we're looking at this from the standpoint of should be the same conditions administered each time that test is administered. It's been referenced so that its validity has been established. And so, so this would be why a personality test is standardized. A naturalistic observation is not standardized because you're not doing anything that could be replicated over and over again. A case study is in the same situation. Experiment would be maybe the closest one that you could get to on this if you were to get a different or an incorrect answer that would be maybe more logical, because we'd expect something in an experiment to perhaps be standardized. But standardized in terms of testing means that again and again, you're going to get results that should be similar because the test has been designed in such a way that it should be administered in under the same conditions each time, regardless of where it is, and should find results that should be stable over time if you were to administer it over and over again. So nicely done. Let's take a look. Jenny at number 2. Connor has moved into number 2. Excuse me, Jenny is number 1. Connor has moved into number 2. Afwe, which apparently is Alfred, as according to his admission on the board, is at number 3. Alan is now at number 4, inching his way up and displacing Alex in the meantime. So let's take a look now and bring ourselves back to the game. Let's go to the next question. If we were to take the grades a student in Snape's class received, the one that would occur the most would be, is that the mode, the mean, the range, or the median? The grades received the most in Snape's class, what would that be? "62 seconds on the clock, 28 answers in." Some people aren't participating, but the problem with that is that we can't really, if I skip the question, none of you get credit. "30 answers, 30 seconds." And you all were unanimous at 31 that this is the mode. The mode is what occurs the most frequently. Let's see. Jenny at number 1, Connor number 2, Afwe number 3, Alan at number 4, closing in on Afwe. Alan making good on his promise that he's going to surpass and make Afwe see the dust, and Alex is still at number 5. But some have just now hit their streak of number 3. Let's take a look. What we bury in the unconscious does come back and influence us in the future. Which of the following psychologists would that be associated with? Would that be Wilhelm Wundt? Would that be William James? Would that be Sigmund Freud? Or would that be Jean Piaget? "57 seconds on the clock, 27 answers in." That was Diet Coke opening. You heard correctly, my friends. Hush you, Ronick. We don't need to hear that mess. Oh, this is painful. That would be Sigmund Freud. So, Sigmund Freud is our person that we're looking at, and he is the one associated with the idea of the unconscious, and that unconsciousness is the studied in psychoanalysis or the psychodynamic theory. So, quit talking about my soda addiction. We don't need to know anything about that. So Jenny is at number 1, Connor at number 2, Alan is at number 3. He has made good on his promise to surpass Afwe, and Alex is at number 4. And I'm just going to say I am loving that Jenny is the only female on the board. So Studying how people solve problems or develop language is likely done by what kind of psychologists? Would that be a behavioral psychologist, an evolutionary psychologist, a biological psychologist, or a cognitive psychologist? Inquiring minds wants to know. "30 answers, 10 seconds." There we go. Cognitive psychologists are the ones that are going to look at the problems, the way that people solve problems, and the ways in which they develop language. So we'll be looking at the way the cognitive processes work in acquiring that information. Well done, boys and girls. Let's take a look here. Jenny's still at number 1, proving that girls ruled. Connor is at number 2, Alan at number 3, Afue at number 4, and Alejandro is at number 5. Let's take a look at our next question, my friends. My prediction that students who watch SpongeBob will not perform well on tests is an example of a theory, a hypothesis, an operational definition, or an inferential statistic. Go! This may be a Paimon reference. I did steal this. I'm totally going to say it. I didn't steal this from Mr. Duez, though. No, altogether. Did not. So let's see here. Let's take a look here. The answer here would be a hypothesis. My prediction. So Alfred says, I thought a hypothesis was more specific or something. And Alfred, yeah, it could be more specific depending upon whether or not. I think what you might be looking at is maybe an operational definition if we're looking at the development of an experiment. So if you look at one of those presentations, yeah, Alan said it was not a good hypothesis, excuse me. But if you look at the videos, excuse me, my bad. If you look at one of the presentations I sent you yesterday on research methods, there is a video about the difference between a theory and a hypothesis. So you can support a theory. Alex wants to know which questions will be the least straightforward on the test. Oh, it's an AP class, Alex. None of the questions are going to be wonderfully straightforward because that's what AP does to us. They play with our minds. So we've got some people saying you can support a theory, but a theory is like a generalized framework. A theory, this is how I like to think of a theory. It's not exactly 100% proven or disproven, but the subject, I actually like what you said there, Alan. It's like a generalized framework that Roenick says you can support. So I like to say that if there's absolutely no way to prove or disprove it, but the evidence overwhelmingly suggests that the proponents of or the tenets of the theory are true or valid, then I like to say that's what makes it a theory, as opposed to an absolute law, which you can usually mathematically graph or perform some sort of strange equation that only math people like to do. So that's kind of how I keep it straight. You can try to prove a hypothesis through an experiment. If you do a structured experiment with sound operational definitions, you randomize your procedure, randomize your sample, and assignments and those sorts of things, then you could prove a hypothesis in that particular sense, but only in an experiment if you're trying to prove a cause and effect type of relationship, and that is your hypothesis. So I don't want to say you can never prove a hypothesis, and I know that there's depending on which book you look at in psychology and which sources you look at, you're going to find a little variance on that, but you'll never be asked that kind of a question. Lucas says you can't prove a hypothesis, but you can disprove the null. You can reject a hypothesis, or you can reject a null hypothesis. So yes, stats. Let's look at where we're at. Jenny's at number 1. Connor is at number 2. Alan is trying to close in, but Connor's holding strong. Alex is at number 4. Afue is now at number 5. Let's see. Sending home a questionnaire to determine attitudes towards school is a survey, experiment, personality test, or case study. Looks like we've got a contest between Alan and Connor. Connor seems to be really upset about it with his please no. Roenick's telling Alan to calm himself. Lexi's probably rolling her eyes. We aren't seeing anything from anyone that looks like Karusha. I'm wondering if he's with us tonight. Jenny has hashtag stats, as has Roenick. Welcome, Max. Lexi is rolling her eyes. She's agreeing. How did I guess it? $29 of you left in this game, and you have said that is a survey, and you are 100% correct. Jenny at number 1, Alan at number 2, Connor at number 3. Oh no, but look, it's only by about 400 points. Connor could retake his spot. Alex is at number 4, and Marinara is at number 5. Welcome to the board. That means Afue has now moved. A psychological psychologist wants to know come on, Jenny, you got it. I'm rooting for the ladies tonight. Feminism and all that good stuff. Gloria Steinem. What does a psychologist want to know? Oh, thank you. Physiological, not psychological. Ooh, that is a thing. That's a thing, guys. Good catch there, gentlemen. Well, and I don't know who Dank Memes is. I know Dank Memes said they were me, but I don't know. See if that affects the answers here. Could have thrown you guys for a big loop. A physiological psychologist would want to know how the body affects behavior, and that would mean the endocrine system. Bam! So, nice call there. Let's see. Jenny looks sad, and it looks like, oh no. Alan is at number 1. Oh no, the mouse killer. Jenny has slept into the number 2 spot. Connor at number 3. Alex is at number 4. And Marinara, a mysterious entity, is now at number 5. Let's take a look. If we take the grades, students, we already saw this one, didn't we? No, the one in the middle is what? Is this the mode, the mean, the median, or the range? Go forth with your answers, children. Erica is not appreciating the question. This is the median, the one in the middle. The middle of the road is the median. You don't want your car to cross the median. So, all right, here we go. Oh, this one is fine, Erica says. Okay. All right, let's see where we're at. Alan is still at number 1. Jenny is at number 2 in the upset of the evening. Connor at number 3. Alex at number 4. Marinara at number 5. And Alicia is back with an answer streak of number 3. You go, Alicia. All right, let's take a look at what we got next. Causation can only be determined through a case study, correlation, statistical significance, or experimentation. Mark, the Kahoot will be sent to you on Remind in just a while. And Alan wants to end now because he wants to preserve his streak. You guys are weird. All right, so experimentation is the only way that you can do causation. You cannot prove cause and effect in any other way. La, 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 la. Let's see. Alan's still at number 1. Jenny trailing at number 2. Alex is at number 3. Connor at number 4. And Marinara is now at number 5. Let's see. Perspective of psychologists looking at why a stimuli causes people to behave in a certain way. Which of these perspectives would describe that? "65 seconds on the clock. 23 answers are in. Just a couple more answers to get put in here. All right. 20 of you have said behavioral, and that would be correct. Let's see how we've done here. Alan is at number 1, Alex number 2, Connor at number 3. Jenny has moved to number 4. Jenny, you got to fight, girl, fight. And Marinara is at number 5. All right, let's take a look and see what we've got here. Let's go to the next question. Get a couple more in before I got to end this fun. Amount of TV watched is monitored to see the impact of it on grades. The time spent watching TV would be the independent variable, a control, a correlation, or the dependent variable. "43 seconds on the clock. We just need one more response, I believe. Ooh, Connor, some strong words here. Somebody isn't. One, and that is the independent variable. Okay, so Alan thinks he's the Phoenix, so he thinks he's Jean Grey or something. So yeah, no place for hate. Exactly, Lexi. No constructive was there. So give Jenny her French fry, and let's see. Alan is at number 1, Alex at number 2, Connor at number 3, Jenny's at number 4, and Marinara is at number 5. All right, let's take a look. The conditions of an experiment that could be measured as well as controlled or observed are variables, correlations, theories, or hypotheses. Caw! Two more answers, 13 seconds on the clock. Those are the variables, wisely said, my friends. All right, looking at the time, I think I might have to run this off before Jenny falls off the board because I am all about the feminists tonight. But we're looking at here, and we're saying that Alan is at number 1, Alex at number 2, Connor at number 3, Marinara is at number 4, and number 5 is Jenny. All right, let's take a look here, and we're going to end our quiz so we can get a couple things out before we have to sign off. So Alan answered 18 out of 19 questions correctly. Connor, the same, but must not have been as fast as Alan. And Alex, the same, but must not have been as fast as Alan. So, dun, 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 na, 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 na. So, nicely done. I don't want your feedback because you guys are going to troll me on that one. So we are going to end this, and we're going to come back and look at me for just a second. I hope you all had fun. That was a really good Kahoot because it actually spanned quite a bit of our stuff. It's a little less on the psychology's perspectives. So those are some things that you might want to take some time and look at in terms of maybe looking back at some of the PowerPoints that were or slide decks that were put online on the agenda. I've got the slide decks from yesterday that were sent, and I will put those on the front page of the website so that you have those. And let's take a quick look at a couple things that you can look at in the meantime this evening. So if you go to my website, which is markvanover.weebly.com, and you take a look at its study links under AP Psychology, you will find that you can go to the unit study guides if you want to have some review questions to look at. Your unit study guide has terms, has questions. You can certainly use that as a final review for tonight, or you could go to unit study guides or study links. I'm sorry, and if you go to the study links, if you look here, the multiple choice quiz website is something that could really help you out in terms of taking a look at what might help you with that. So if we take a look at the multiple choice quiz, you're going to find that the multiple choice quiz website is a nice way to try to apply your knowledge. So if we go to that window, I think that should be showing for you there. Just ignore this dude down here in the corner because he's just trying to sell you something. But you would be looking here at schools of psychology and research methods. So if you wanted to review some schools of psychology, you could take this particular multiple choice quiz. There are several questions, more than you could possibly want. But if you took all of these, it would then take you down to look. It just keeps going and going and going. But you have so many questions that you could look at here to help you out. And again, you would reach that by going to markvanover.weebly.com. That's this page. And you go to AP Psychology. You go to Psych Study Links. It's right here on the left-hand side next to where you have success in the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. We'll get you that. Here is where you have some Unit 1 resources and Unit 2 resources. So for example, if you look here, this is from Mr. Duez in Texas. There are targets that give you some things to look at and kind of review, because right now, all you can do is review. You cannot really learn new information. You can't reread 8 modules of your book. So this gives you some nice things to use while you're studying, these target sheets. There are videos that were done by 2 high school guys. Here's a structuralism versus functionalism video, for example. A really nice Unit 1 review video that was out there by a teacher that did this, Mr. Schallhorn. Remember, he is the dude. He is the dude. He's the guy that everybody loves in AP Psychology. When he talks, they listened. Here's one, the 10 toughest terms for Unit 2 by another teacher. You have all kinds of I put some videos here about things like dependent, independent control video. You have some research methods video here. So these things can help you out in regarding some of the things we studied. Here's one about studies of central tendency. And you can look here at standard deviations. Anything that might kind of help you out is listed here with lots of detail. If you've been asking any questions in the chat right now, I can't see them. So give me just a moment and see here. Let's see here. Thanks for the live stream. I'm getting some thank you. Dank Memes loves Weebly. Some of the names in the study guide were barely mentioned in the text. Are they still important? So you've got, for example, Piaget, the dog saliva man, Jean Piaget. If you look at the names, some of those names that your book isn't mentioning in a lot of detail won't appear maybe on this particular test. They come up over the course of AP Psychology. So do not worry at this time. I won't put anything on this test that's going to go outside of the resources available to you. So not necessarily something to worry about. But the point that I wanted to show you is that if you are on the website, there's quite a bit there that can kind of help you out if you're having some confusion, or if you want to put your particular knowledge to the test, you have that there for you. So definitely use that, but don't stay up too late. Don't freak out trying to make sure that you study every possible little thing. Don't reread everything. That's really kind of a waste of your time. And you don't want to do anything that's going to be counterproductive to your success. Otherwise, you'll have to punch Bozo in the nose. Now, don't punch Bozo when I'm not here tomorrow. He needs to be protected because he is a valuable resource. But we want to make sure that you feel like you've got some resources at your disposal. I will tweet out the link to the Kahoot we just did. I have another Kahoot that's about 35 questions. It's more on research methods, but I think that that's something that might be beneficial for some of you based upon the quiz results for some of you. Although you did very well overall on your quiz for Unit 2, I would say that some of you might want to brush up a little bit on the research subjects and that sort of thing. So research methods, I'm sorry. So with that being said, I'm going to don't dress up Bozo because Bozo's already clothed. If you look at him here, he's got a nice clown outfit. Bozo's probably one of the only clowns that really doesn't scare me. This is also a vintage design, so don't hurt Bozo. He's supposed to represent Bobo the clown, and we'll talk more about Bobo dolls later. But what we want to make sure we do is study. Don't stay up too late, and I know that that's really probably going to be advice you ignore because CCA. But I want you guys to try to get a good night's rest, and don't freak out about your test tomorrow. Your quizzes are very good representations of your test, and you have done as a group exceptionally well. So I'm very happy to see that. I have no reason to believe that anybody's going to do poorly, and I think that you will find that you do just fine. Now, remember that I'm not here tomorrow, and because I'm not here tomorrow, that will mean that you're working with Mr. Garcia, who is a very capable man to help administer your test. You'll have an activity that's meant to kind of show you some of the things regarding FRQ writing afterwards. So it's not an actual FRQ. You don't have a full FRQ on tomorrow's exam, but you will learn all of the fundamentals of one. And you might start off on Wednesday doing a quick write on an FRQ. Alfred says, well, I make the average a C. No, I don't grade on a curve. Although some of your college professors may, I don't believe in that. I don't mean that we need to artificially impose a bell curve and standard deviation and all that kind of stuff on my students. I think that that's just not right, unethical. But that being said, if you're not here, cheating is okay, right? No, it's never okay. So that being said, I am going to end our session this evening. I hope you found it somewhat useful. I hope we were able to review some concepts, and I hope that you were able to find an ability to come together with your peers. We had some people nicely contributing to some of the questions where I admittedly am not the expert, and no, cheating is never okay. It will only land you in nothing but pain and sorrow. So that being said, I said that a few times now, but I'm going to sign off. It's 9:11 p.m. and I would like to go home soon. So I wish you all a good evening. I wish you all very good studying and good luck tomorrow. I'm not worried about you. So have a good evening. Bye-bye.